The heavy wooden doors of the courtroom swung open as the bailiff called for order. 17-year-old Rose Dawson stepped forward, her wrists bound in cuffs. She swallowed hard, trying to steel herself against the cold stares from the jury. The judge presiding over her case, Evelyn Carter, adjusted her glasses and studied the case file. "Miss Dawson, you stand accused of theft. How do you plead?" Judge Carter's voice was calm but firm. Rose's defense attorney, Linda Harper, leaned in. "Say not guilty, Rose, just as we discussed." But Rose's heart pounded in her chest. She wasn't focused on the trial anymore. She was staring at the judge, her breath hitching. Judge Carter looked up. "Miss Dawson?" Rose blurted out, "You're my mom." The courtroom fell into stunned silence. Someone gasped. The prosecutor, Daniel Brooks, furrowed his brows. Linda turned to Rose in shock, while Judge Carter froze, gripping her gavel tightly. "Excuse me?" the judge said, her voice dangerously low. "You're my mom," Rose repeated. "I've been looking for you my whole life." A tense energy filled the room, and for the first time Judge Carter looked truly shaken. Judge Carter cleared her throat. "That's enough. We will proceed with the case." "I'm telling the truth," Rose insisted, her voice desperate. "I was adopted. I never knew who my real mother was until now. It's you." Linda Harper stood up. "Your Honor, if I may request a brief recess?" "Denied," Judge Carter snapped, regaining her composure. "This is a court of law, not a reunion service." "But I have proof." Rose reached into her pocket and pulled out a small, worn-out locket. "This was given to me by my adoptive mother. It has a picture of you inside." Linda hesitated before stepping forward and placing the locket on the evidence table. The bailiff picked it up and passed it to Judge Carter, who hesitated before opening it. Her breath caught as she recognized the photo. It was an old picture of her, taken when she was 19. The courtroom murmured. Judge Carter quickly snapped the locket shut. "Coincidence," she muttered. "This means nothing." But her hands were shaking. Judge Carter sat in her chambers after court adjourned, staring at the locket. She told herself it was impossible, but the past she had buried decades ago was clawing its way back. There was a time long ago when she had been young, scared, and pregnant. Her father, Senator Richard Carter, had insisted she give up the child. But she remembered holding her baby once, just once, before being told hours later that the infant hadn't survived. Had she been lied to? Judge Carter closed her eyes, willing the memories away. Meanwhile, Linda sat with Rose in a holding cell. "Are you sure about this?" she asked gently. Rose nodded. "I know she's my mother. I need a DNA test to prove it." Linda took a deep breath. "Then, that's what we'll do." The next day, the courtroom was packed. Reporters lined the back rows, their cameras flashing. The case had taken a sensational turn overnight. Linda stood. "Your Honor, in light of yesterday's revelation, we formally request a DNA test." Judge Carter hesitated. She wanted to deny it outright, but her fingers twitched toward the locket in her robe pocket. Prosecutor Daniel Brooks scoffed. "This is ridiculous. There's no legal basis." Judge Carter exhaled sharply. "Request granted. The court will arrange for a DNA test. Until then, this case is in recess." The gavel came down, but the whispers didn't stop. The media swarmed the halls, hungry for the truth. That evening, Judge Carter met with Detective James Harper, an old friend and Linda's brother. They sat in her dimly lit office, tension thick in the air. "I need you to look into something for me," she said, sliding the locket across the desk. James frowned. "You think she might be telling the truth?" Judge Carter's jaw clenched. "I was told my baby died at birth. But what if that was a lie?" James leaned back. "Who gave you the news?" Judge Carter's stomach churned. "My father." James cursed under his breath. "Evelyn, you know what kind of man Senator Carter is?" She nodded slowly. "Find out what really happened. Because if Rose is my daughter, then someone stole her from me." James stood. I'll get you answers. As the detective left, Judge Carter stared at the empty room, her heart pounding, because deep down she already knew the truth. A week later, the courtroom buzzed with anticipation. Reporters jostled for position and spectators filled every seat. Judge Carter entered, her face a mask of professionalism, but her eyes betrayed her anxiety. "This court is now in session," she announced, her voice steady. Linda Harper stood, holding an envelope. "Your Honor, we have received the DNA test results." Judge Carter nodded, gesturing for the bailiff to retrieve the envelope. As she opened it, the room fell silent. Her eyes scanned the document and her breath caught. "The results confirm that Rose Dawson is my biological daughter," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Gasps echoed through the courtroom. Rose's eyes filled with tears, a mix of relief and anger. Judge Carter's composure cracked, and she quickly called for a recess, retreating to her chambers. Determined to uncover the truth, Judge Carter and Detective James Harper delved into her past. They discovered that her father, Senator Richard Carter, had orchestrated the deception, fearing a scandal would ruin their family's reputation. He had paid Dr. William Harris to fake the stillbirth and arrange for the baby's adoption. Judge Carter confronted her father in his opulent study. "How could you?" she demanded, her voice trembling with rage. Senator Carter sighed, unrepentant. "I did what was necessary to protect our family. You have a career because of my actions." "At the cost of my daughter," she shouted, tears streaming down her face. Meanwhile, Detective Harper tracked down Dr. Harris, who confessed under pressure, revealing the extent of the senator's involvement. The conspiracy that had stolen Rose's life was unraveling. With the conspiracy exposed, Senator Carter faced public outrage and legal repercussions. Dr. Harris was arrested for his role in the deception. The media frenzy intensified as the scandal unfolded. Rose struggled with conflicting emotions. She had spent her life in foster care, enduring hardships, while her biological mother lived in privilege, unaware of her existence. Judge Carter stepped down from the bench, unable to preside over the case impartially. She reached out to Rose, desperate to make amends. "I want to know you, Rose," she said, her voice filled with sincerity. Rose's eyes were cold. "You think a few words can erase years of pain?" Judge Carter nodded, tears in her eyes. "I know it won't be easy, but I'm willing to try, if you'll let me." Judge Carter dedicated herself to earning Rose's trust. She attended her court hearings, advocated for her release, and spent time getting to know her. Rose remained guarded, her walls built high from years of betrayal. "Why now?" she asked one day. "Because I was robbed of the chance to be your mother," Judge Carter replied softly. "And you were robbed of a family. I want to give that back to you, if you'll let me." Slowly, Rose began to open up, sharing stories of her childhood, her dreams, and her fears. The path to healing was fraught with challenges, but both women were determined to navigate it together. Senator Carter was indicted for his crimes, his political career in ruins. Dr. Harris faced charges for his role in the conspiracy. Justice was being served, but the scars remained. Judge Carter and Rose attended the trial together, a united front against the man who had torn them apart. "I can't change the past," Judge Carter whispered to Rose, "but I promise to be here for you now." Rose nodded, squeezing her mother's hand. "We'll face this together." With the trials concluded, Rose and Judge Carter embarked on a journey of healing. They attended therapy sessions, shared meals, and slowly built the bond that had been stolen from them. One evening, as they sat on the porch, Rose turned to her mother. "Do you think we can ever be a real family?" Judge Carter smiled, tears in her eyes. "I believe we already are." The road ahead was uncertain, but together they were ready to face whatever came their way, embracing the new beginning they had fought so hard to achieve.